further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Stephanie at Family Information Line.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me well? Can everyone hear me? I need to talk louder. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the virtual ongoing emotional support program. So just briefly, essentially what it is complementary to the FIL cores that we already have, which is information, referral, crisis intervention, as well as emotional support. So it's really just an extension of the service that we already offer. But it is an option for people to have a face-to-face experience from their own home using actually the WebEx application, which you guys are currently using. But so that's something that they are able to do with us, but they can also choose to do it over the phone. So what it is they're assigned one virtual counselor, which is myself or my colleague Lisa, and they have the same FIL counselor for a term of 6 to 8 weeks, where we discuss any given situation that they are dealing with at the moment. So that's essentially what the service is a chance for people to have a face-to-face discussion, but on a more personal level, and that can kind of go past the boundaries of geographical barriers. People that can use the service, the reason that the service is established is to fill the gap in the population. So people, like I mentioned earlier, that have geographical barriers that aren't close to an MFRC or aren't in an area that has many social workers or mental health counselors can access our service for free. Also language barriers. So for instance, have families that might be located in Bagotville that speak English do struggle to find English-speaking mental health workers, so that's a service that they can use for us. And also social barriers. So a lot of people that live within the community of the CAF often don't really want, a peer to be their, if the only option is a peer that's a social worker, it's not very much ideal or ethical to kind of disclose personal information. So we are a confidential service and another option for them to get some emotional support on a continual basis. Also, our mandate is extended, so we don't necessarily have a limit to our mandate. So, maybe just a girlfriend, I could say, or like a partner, or, cousin of a CAF member doesn't necessarily qualify for MFRC SIF-MAP services. So we are open to discussing, their situation in pertaining with the Canadian Armed Forces, but that for those people in the extended families and situations like that don't necessarily fit any other mandates offered by MSS or the forces. And also, yeah, we do offer, it's a good service to refer to people on wait lists. So it's a good way to bridge the time where people are kind of in that awkward medium where they either are on a wait list or, they're moving from one location to another and can't really commit to the same mental health worker. So it's a good way for them to have a consistent worker. Say someone, is currently located in Gagetown but is being posted to Edmonton, they can have the same person to talk to for that whole process, no matter where they are geographically. I went through that quite fast. Does anyone have questions? I did?
No questions in the chat.
All right. So I just wanted to give you guys just the next slide, actually.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
do you guys
actually,
have anything to add?
I'll just mention for those folks, can you give me a check mark if the sound is okay coming from Stephanie, because we're trying out a new microphone today.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay, so yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a brief of how we do work. Our work is focused on the determinants of well-being. So the way it works is that if one determinant is affected, so say, you know, someone has no job, so that would be the occupational determinant. That can affect another determinant, which is social, because, you know, someone that is unemployed might not have the social circle or the natural environment to make a social circle. So if the client deems that to be the most important thing for them, then we focus on these determinants and see how can we figure out to improve that balance. And as you can see on the image, you know, trying to minimize the impact of negative determinants is key to someone's well-being, and that's kind of the model that we base ourselves on for virtual emotional support. So I can give you guys a couple, like, just very brief examples of types of clients that we get. So for example, like I mentioned earlier, we've had clients that are, you know, struggling with the stress that comes with relocation, and that didn't really trust to find a social worker that was only available to them for 2 weeks before they had to move. So in the span of 8 weeks, we can really be there for that relocation process. You know, we have a client that has mobility limitations, so she cannot get herself to the MFRC. Other types of, you know, there's one I mentioned, a girlfriend that doesn't necessarily fit under the CAS mandate, but is affected by the Canadian Forces environment due to her partner being part of it. So these are types of clients that we get. They're just all clients that really we want to support that fall between the cracks of the services available. I'm open to more questions if you guys have them. I'm just looking at the screen, so you guys are on the chat. And if you guys have anything to add, that can.
So, any questions from the group for Stephanie, or comments about what you found works well at your MFRC? What might be a good circumstance for individuals to access virtual emotional support? Feel free to unmute your mic or write in the chat.
There's a question in the chat.
How many virtual counselors do you have on staff?
We currently have 2 virtual counselors. I am one of them, and my colleague Lisa also.
Okay.
We occupy on from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern time. So we do share the shift. So either myself or her occupy daytime or evening.
Who just joined us on the teleconference?
Kelsey Myers from the MFRC in Penwalla.
Hi, Kelsey. How you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Great. Okay. So you have another question, Stephanie?
Yeah.
If they need, are they able to get the time extended?
So we aim to have a 6 to 8 session because if there's a need to have it extended, it's usually a situation where someone would have to, discussing with the client, they would have to go to a face-to-face counselor, but it is a case-by-case basis, so we don't want to leave anyone empty-handed, and we would extend it if the need is there on a case-by-case basis. But ideally, being that the service is on a virtual front, it is safer to keep it on a shorter term. So Michelle's question, currently, so the program's been up for about 3 months. We've had around 15 clients total since then. These are about this over months, so we don't necessarily have monthly stats yet, so that's about what we know for now. I thought there were other questions.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So Leanna, is that a question or?
Yeah, more just a comment.
Yeah. Deanna commented about the, oh, sorry, go ahead.
It was more so just a statement. I think this is really neat, and I'm excited to see where this goes or how far it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. We do remain, like, we ask a little more questions than we would with the normal FIL calls. But the client can choose to give us the information they need. For us, we just need the information to be able to call them ourselves, because that's, you know, how we communicate, and a name so that we're able to address them. But the information doesn't go past that. It remains in the FIL team. So it is anonymous to that extent, yeah. Like, even with the FIL, like, aside from virtual support, you know, if someone doesn't want to give their name, so often we can even ask them to give a pseudonym, like, or a fake name, just so we're able to have a conversation and address them. But it can remain as anonymous as the client deems.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Just before we get to some other questions, I just wanted to show you on the website. You guys have most likely seen this, but on CAF Connection, you can actually access. Hang on a sec. There's a thing blocking my screen here. You can access the FIL virtual counseling information. So if you just go to cafconnection.ca, hang on a sec. I'll go there first. And then you go under Stay Connected, Family Information Line. Then under that is Virtual Emotional Support. And that takes you to the site where it explains a little bit more about it. So that may be useful for the clients where they say, so what is this all about? And what exactly do they mean by emotional support? And those kinds of things. And how do I contact them? All of that is covered on this page or on the sub pages here. So feel free to access that as well.
Can I add something? The service is really meant to be complementary to MFRC. You know, in situations where someone can go to the MFRC, like, we do aim to encourage them to step in there, because we are where a face-to-face experience is much more effective. So it's mainly, you know, if people are hesitant to go, we are there to encourage them to kind of go there, or to go to a mental health community resource that they can access. So it's not necessarily to isolate anyone. It's not to encourage isolation, but more so to get a foot in that way for people that have been hesitant to access services. So that's another type of client that we would be able to hopefully serve. I think Diane is asking if we serve veteran families. We don't turn away veteran families, so we do. We would use them as clients and their families as well, yeah. The 1-800 number, for Diane's other question, it's the same as the FIL number. So the way it kind of happens is they call FIL, and then usually the FIL counselor that picks up refers it to myself or Lisa. And with the permission of the FIL counselor, we reach out to them with their consent to be able to establish, like, the whole timing of the week that they want to speak of, whether it's daytime or even evening up until 11 p.m. Eastern time. So it's the same FIL number to access this program, but there's a whole process that happens after that where we connect with them for the intake.
So it's the same number that's always been
Yeah.
on the magnet,
Yeah.
pamphlets.
Yeah, it is still, like, we are essentially FIL. It's just an option, an extension of FIL, where you can speak to the same person at the same time each week to really get, like, an ongoing support on that front. Is there anything that you guys would like me to repeat, or any questions?
Okay. All right. Well, as I say with every web exchange, please do make this the first of many possible interactions that you have around this issue. So feel free to call FIL at any time if you ever have any questions about virtual emotional support, and they can answer your questions or find someone who can answer your questions. And basically, this is just an extension of services to allow you guys to better serve the families, so that on holidays or times that you might be away, that there's still a source of support for families. So hopefully you'll feel open to giving us a call if you have any questions or have some potential referrals or want to know more about it, because we're always happy to talk about it. And on that note, it looks like we have no more questions, so we'll end the session now a little bit early. But as I mentioned, feel free to call FIL for any future questions. Oh, if you or your coworker are not there, then they would still get support from any counselor. Okay,
So on the one-off that Lisa or I aren't there, the FIL line is always manned, so it's always it still goes that the FIL line is available 24/7. When we aren't there, we usually take care of our clients to ensure that we can replace their session as you would with a medical doctor or with a dentist or something like that. But if they do, need urgent support, FIL is always a 24-hour service, whether, myself as an individual or Lisa isn't there. There's always going to be someone there to respond to crisis. If it isn't a crisis, we would hope that the session can be replaced to the next day with, appropriate planning. If I am to go on vacation tomorrow, I would plan ahead for these specific sessions, but it doesn't stop that FIL is a 24-hour service at all times.
Okay. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you all for taking the time to join us today, and thank you very much to Stephanie and her supervisor Isabel as well for preparing this presentation. And as always, feel free to reach out to FIL at the number on the screen there if you have any other questions. Have a great afternoon.